What if the child who never got to be weak is the most dangerous adult in the room? What if the kid who learned silence before laughter, responsibility before play, and awareness before innocence is not broken, but sharpened? And what if you are sitting next to one right now, mistaking their calm for emptiness, their distance for coldness, their restraint for fear? A child who grows up too fast does not lose childhood by accident. Childhood is taken from them quietly, repeatedly, without apology. Sometimes by chaos, sometimes by neglect. Sometimes by a parent who needed a therapist but got a child instead. Sometimes by poverty. Sometimes by violence. Sometimes by emotional unpredictability so constant that the child learns one brutal rule early: no one is coming to save you. Most people believe childhood trauma creates weakness. They imagine a damaged adult, emotional, unstable, fragile. That belief is comfortable. It allows others to feel superior. It allows society to simplify pain into pathology. But that belief is incomplete and dangerously naive, because while some children break, others adapt, and adaptation under pressure does not look soft. It looks strategic. A child who grows up too fast learns pattern recognition before language. They read tone before words. They sense mood shifts like weather changes. They learn when to speak and, more importantly, when silence keeps them safe. While other children learn rules, they learn consequences. While others trust, they calculate. This child does not ask, "Is this fair?" They ask, "What will happen next?" That difference changes everything. Most people grow up assuming the world is neutral until proven hostile. This child grows up knowing the world is hostile until proven safe. That flips the entire psychological operating system. They do not live inside emotions. They observe them. They do not react immediately. They pause. They do not overshare. They measure. And because they had to regulate adults before they could regulate themselves, they develop a skill most people never master: emotional compression. They feel deeply but show selectively. This is where illusions break. Society teaches that maturity comes from age. Power comes from confidence. Strength comes from dominance. None of that is true for the child who grew up too fast. Their strength comes from restraint. Their power comes from awareness. Their dominance comes from self-control. They understand something most people learn too late, if ever. Whoever needs less, controls more. While others chase validation, this child learned early that approval is unstable. While others seek safety in numbers, this child learned safety is internal. While others fear being alone, this child learned loneliness long before language and survived it. That survival rewires the brain. Neurologically, early responsibility forces the mind into hypervigilance. Psychologically, it creates an internal authority. Strategically, it breeds long-term thinking. This child does not live for the moment. They live for outcomes. They watch people. They store information. They remember who changed their tone, who broke promises, who only cared when it benefited them. They don't confront immediately. They archive. Most people think loudly and feel openly. This child thinks quietly and feels privately. And because they were never allowed emotional chaos, they often appear emotionally cold. But coldness is not emptiness. It is containment. This is where Machiavellian intelligence quietly forms, not from ambition, but from necessity. They learn that power is not about force. It is about positioning, leverage, timing. They learn that reacting gives information. Silence takes it away. They learn that emotional outbursts surrender control. They learn that patience unnerves impulsive people. While others speak to be seen, they speak to move the board. And here is the uncomfortable truth. Many people feel uneasy around them without knowing why. Not because this person is aggressive, but because they are unreadable. Predictability makes people comfortable. Strategic calm does not. The child who grew up too fast learned early that vulnerability without safety is suicide. So they lock parts of themselves away, not because they lack emotion, but because they respect its power. By adulthood, this creates a presence that feels heavy, not loud, not dramatic, heavy, like someone who has seen the worst-case scenario and stopped being afraid of it. They don't panic easily. They don't idolize authority. They don't romanticize people. They know that adults are just children with better excuses. This is not innocence lost. This is innocence replaced with clarity. And clarity changes how you move through the world. Once the child who grew up too fast becomes conscious of what they are, something shifts. Survival intelligence turns into strategic intelligence. Reaction turns into calculation. Pain stops leaking and starts fueling. This is where real psychological power begins. They understand silence not as absence, but as pressure. When they don't speak, others fill the space. When they don't explain, others reveal themselves. Silence becomes a filter. Those who are insecure talk more. Those who seek control expose urgency. Those who want validation overplay their hand. This person watches it all. They have mastered emotional neutrality, not because they feel nothing, but because they refuse to give others access to their internal state. Emotions are information. Information is leverage. They learned that lesson too early to forget it. Most people want to be understood. They want to be liked. They want to be chosen. The child who grew up too fast wants control of trajectory. They are not impulsive. They are patient. And patience is terrifying to reactive minds. Because patience implies confidence in outcome. It implies long-term vision. They don't rush revenge. They don't explode when crossed. They file it away. They understand timing beats intensity. Always. Enemies are not hated. They are studied. This person knows that emotional mastery is not suppressing feelings. It is deciding when they are useful. Anger becomes focus. Sadness becomes depth. Fear becomes caution. Pain becomes data. And data shapes strategy. They don't chase quick wins. They delay gratification instinctively. Because as a child, they already paid the price of immediacy. They know that short-term comfort creates long-term weakness. So they build slowly, quietly, relentlessly. Identity shifts here. They stop seeing themselves as the child who endured. They become the architect of outcomes. They no longer ask, "Why did this happen to me?" They ask, "How does this shape my advantage?" This is not positivity. This is realism weaponized. They understand that the world rewards those who can withstand discomfort without broadcasting it. That authority belongs to those who don't explain themselves excessively. That respect comes from boundaries, not begging. They do not seek to dominate rooms. They let rooms adjust to them. And this is where loneliness enters. Because awareness isolates. Once you see manipulation, you cannot unsee it. Once you understand emotional leverage, casual relationships feel shallow. Once you recognize how often people act from fear, neediness, or insecurity, connection becomes rarer but cleaner. The child who grew up too fast often walks alone, not because they are antisocial, but because their standards are internal, not negotiable. They do not bond through chaos. They bond through consistency, through respect, through silence that feels safe, not awkward. Power has a cost. You see reality clearly, but you lose the comfort of illusions. You gain self-control, but lose the luxury of ignorance. You stop being reactive, but start being responsible for every move you make. This awareness is heavy. It demands discipline. It demands restraint. It demands choosing long-term strength over short-term relief again and again. And here is the warning few people talk about. If you grew up too fast and do not consciously integrate this power, it will isolate you, harden you, turn intelligence into armor instead of a tool. Strategy without humanity becomes emptiness. But if you integrate it correctly, if you master silence without bitterness, if you use awareness without arrogance, if you convert pain into precision, you become someone rare. Someone who is calm when others panic. Someone who sees angles others miss. Someone who cannot be easily manipulated because they learned manipulation before trust. This is not a gift meant for everyone. Most people will never want to see the world this clearly. Most people prefer comfort over truth. Most people choose noise over silence. If you grew up too fast, you didn't choose this lens. It was forced on you. Now it's yours to use, carefully. Because once you see reality as it is, not as it's sold, you don't get to go back. You carry the weight of awareness. You walk a quieter path. You hold a kind of power that doesn't announce itself. Most people won't go further. That's the point.